British Columbia, Vancouver campus. I am Nadia Lichtig and I manage public programs. And I'd like to acknowledge that we are on the unceded and traditional territories of the Musqueam people. I'd also like to thank David Messner for Antony's overview very shortly, and his colleagues at the School of Music who connected us with Antony and Waddell. They have collaborated to interpret Nadia Lichtig flag spots. So thank you all for being here. And I'm just going to also, alongside Antony and Walker, singers Armand Birk, Frelick, Kari, Rutherford, Tessa, Waddell, will perform the musical score. Nadia Lichtig's Blank Spots is a part of Drift, Art and Dark Matter, and it's a residency and exhibition project generated by Agnes Everington Art Centre and the Arthur B. MacDonald Canadian Astrophysics Particle Research Institute and Snowland, with the support of Canada Council for the Arts, the Ontario Arts Council, the Stonefront Foundation, George Taylor Richardson Memorial Fund, and the City of Kingston Arts Fund through the Kingston Arts Council. The project is curated by Simon Kerr, curator of contemporary art at Agnes Everington Arts Centre, and the Belkin gratefully acknowledges the generous support of the Canada Council for the Arts, the Province of British Columbia through the BC Arts Council, UBC grants for catalyzing research clusters, and the Belkin Curators Forum member.
Thank you, Naomi. So after our performance, Antony and Walker, our two composers, will be discussing the piece and what they brought to it, how they saw it, and we'll answer any questions that you may have. So with that in mind, I just want to say a few introductory remarks. This piece consists of 6 movements, which last anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes, and there will be movement of the performers between the separate movements. The performers will be walking around the space between the separate movements, they'll be doing that. Also, I should say this, the first movement, we would like everyone to be in here and to stay in here, but once the performers start walking around between the different movements, we encourage you to do so as well. All right, so feel free to take in movement 3 in one room and movement 4 in another room. That would be great, because you'll hear it in different ways all the way through. Also, one of the movements will contain coughing noises. It's all being done theatrically, so don't be alarmed whatsoever with that. There. All right, so with that in mind, we'll start the show.
Nuclear research is indissolubly associated, I believe, also for many people, with military research, with A and H bombs, and also with something whose drawbacks are only just beginning to appear: the proliferation of nuclear power stations. In fact, let's say, the anxiety that nuclear research has caused since the end of the Second World War is fading a little bit as, let's say, the A-bomb explosions in Hiroshima and Nagasaki passed into the past. Of course, there was the accumulation of H weapons, which kept people worried, but more recently, of nuclear power plants, which claim to meet the growing energy needs. It's realized that this proliferation had a number of drawbacks, very serious problems. So, I believe that this situation, that cutting-edge research is associated with a real threat to the survival of humanity, a threat even to the survival of life on the planet, is not an exceptional situation. It is a situation that has rules.
Myself, I've been explored to use. Myself, I've been immortalized. These questions.
I'm a mathematician. Most of my life doing. As far is concerned, I have colleagues with whom far removed from any kind of. For a long time, I did not ask myself scientific research. Over the last 2 years, asked myself. I've come to a position over the last year or year and a half where I've actually been abandoning any kind of scientific research. I think that in the future, I will only do what is strictly necessary to be able to support myself. Since it didn't help me concerning scientific developments are still a tiny minority. Emergence does not have the concept.
Where's the oil? Tumors. Where's the non-organic? Deforestation started having in 20th century started about and near death. The
virus
is unknown.
Four.
humanity. The
Is
vi-
unknown.
virus
Four.
virus
The human being is the
human being is the pathogen of the planet.
all are not
Virus,
bear, bear,
Fect.
bear,
Fect.
bear, hill top, love, bear,
Sunshine did king to do. Sunshine did king to do.
gas, machine, oil, pillage,
Barren.
raided, toxic,
Barren.
love, oil, Lights according to some external measures of space and time, but rather time and space. Here and there, perhaps.
you approach this piece and go into the piece. And we also the collaboration with Nadia too.
Sure. Right, so I guess first maybe I should start to talk about me and Walker's sort of collaboration. We kind of decided to go my pieces. I really wanted to experiment with unpitched music, so I decided to kind of go that route, and then Walker decided to kind of do the
pitch stuff.
Pitch stuff.
Kind of playing with the idea of like what from loop-based ambient music you can bring into an actual physical space, and what happens when singers can't see each other, and sort of rhythmic alignment issues.
Yeah. My first piece was sort of inspired by how I sort of see us sometimes absorbing information. I chose a nice chunk of text that was from Nadia's work, one of Nadia's pieces, which is a great scientific text, but the actual the message of the text is not so much the important part. It's how I view us as people sometimes, how we process important information, and how sometimes we don't fully absorb all the actual details, and it kind of aligns a little bit with the idea of dark matter, where we know that it's there, but we can't actually understand it or access it. It's similar in the sense that we know that there's information there, but we're somehow choosing not to fully register it, or we tune it out some way. So what we're left with is like a spotty idea of what is actually going on without knowing all the details. So that was sort of the inspiration between the first piece.
Just go one by one through. Yeah. So the first one of my pieces with the 3 pairs of singers kind of picks up from that idea. The text is there about what is the wisdom that's been lost in knowledge. Knowledge has been lost in information, and that has all of the singers have basically the same material, but because they're spaced out and they can't see each other, it kind of has this effect of 2 people talking at each other at the same time, rather than actually having a conversation where they're listening to the other person. And so it's the same sort of idea of the information is all there, but we're not engaging with it in a way that actually leads to any understanding.
Totally. Yeah, and I thought I'd just add, there was so much text that was with this piece that we had a lot of choice, a lot of things to choose from, and there was a lot about kind of the sort of destructive side of humanity, which I decided to kind of lean into. Obviously, I do have a lot of hope. I'm not just a pessimist and nihilist, but I decided for the second piece to kind of lean into that as well, especially the third piece. But the second piece was more of an exploration of actual sound, and it was a little bit more theatrical, and I decided to kind of pull from sounds that we actually hear humans make, and kind of delving into, who we are in our essence, and into the kind of the new age of technology as well. It's a little bit in there as well. So yeah, that was kind of the second piece.
And then the second one of mine with the 2 trios is kind of a direct counterpart to that. It's taking the hopeful attitude. There's another text that one of the singers read the entirety of while walking around. But I basically just took bits out of this. Time and space are not separate from matter and from meaning. And here, it's the same idea of both the singers have the same things at different speeds at different times, but it's less a talking over each other and more a, what if I'm doing this and you're also doing this? What does this create in the middle space that's unpredictable and more than what could have been created if we were paying attention to that? Sort of a, not exactly sure how to describe it, but it's the emergent music that comes about from 2 processes that are kind of controlled.
Yeah, our pieces create a really nice balance between the 2, because then subsequent to that, the last piece of mine is just basically playing with the idea of the constructive nature of humanity, but with that comes also the destructive nature of humanity, and we don't can't get the destruction side without us being able to construct, everything that we've come to understand as society and everything. So with that idea, I simply took a list of all these words that were plucked from one of Nadia's texts, which are all the detrimental things that humans have sort of are involved with, and constructing the words, and then deconstructing them. Yeah.
And then the last movement is based on the first text that really caught my eye, which is about, and I think it's talking about particles in this case, but it's being entangled is not just like two separate things that are connected, but it's like a fundamental being a part of the same thing. And so I use that as kind of a bookend to this, to sort of bring this. There's the hope. There's also the destruction and disaster. And there's this. We are all connected in this together, whether we realize that or not. And by sort of recognizing that this is a collective situation that we're in, it puts us in a situation to be able to find collective solutions to this. And this is actually the place where the singers are physically distant from each other the most, but also rhythmically coordinated the most precisely because of these openings here. That a greater amount of space between doesn't necessarily limit communication.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So really a great moment for me to listen to the compositions together. Maybe I can speak a little bit as well about our collaboration, how this came up. So thank you so much to Belkin, Valerie, as well as the team who made that possible. So this piece is, based just on what is called notes, which come actually with these montages, which are taken in places where things happen, and I'm trying to connect to the land actually, where these things happen, and at the same time I'm trying to digest in a way all this information we're getting today concerning science, and there was one simple phrase, it's the 6 voices. And there's this bank of text. And I'm very grateful for what you make out of that. It's really beautiful. So it's a low piece, so I hope you can have the occasion again to come together. For me, everything's always the beginning. So as you noticed, there is also composition in the piece when you're normally in the space, which is actually myself doing 6 voices, not necessarily playing, in this case it's played, but it could have also been just your voices here in the space. So I imagine that another time, a different way. So I love the way you were reacting to the space as well, to this space of this architecture, which really makes sense. So what you said about connecting, I think that's really something which is important in this piece, to be able to digest information differently through the body and through the voice. So that's really forward in this work, and you just expanded it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the singers.
Does anyone have any questions for us?
Or comments?
Complaints.
I felt it was very moving. I'm a sucker for beautiful harmonies and singing. Although I've never heard this type of singing before, so it's fresh and experience.
Can
once, and then we sort of allowed you guys to talk and to meet or to find your own research. Can you talk a bit about that?
Between us?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. So this work is set up as something that wants to go out. So these are paintings, but they're not made in a studio. They're made outside. So it's field work, and the whole process of working with others is in the work. So when I set up this piece, the idea was to invite others to compose with these texts. So this didn't happen in Princeton when Birk was just shown because of the pandemic, and it happened the first time here. So first thing I said to Sunny, who's great at the show, okay, can we now collaborate? Can we find, kind of, connections? And so he set me up with the Department of Music. I mean, with you did that actually. So Belkin. So I got connected to that network, and then you popped up, and we started speaking, and I think we connected quite easily. I think we understood each other. Actually, you already had seen the piece by then. You had listened to the sounds. You saw the notes, and then the idea was to trust each other as well. So it's not about telling anything, that's what's for me so exciting when myself I can be surprised, about things. So I love the idea as well of losing control in a way. So the idea of 6 voices was important because there are these 6 places, and so it's a very simple frame, and then there's all these texts, and there are only these two things that they're kind of structured, and all the rest is then came from their creative side, and so they worked on that very seriously, and that's the outcome. So so we met on Zoom several times, and spoke about things.
That's about it.
And we listen maybe to each other's works as well. I mean, maybe that's an important point as well, that we are interested, to see what the others are doing. So they were here. They sent me links to their work. So
I found the experience of moving through the space where it began here with this work. It very quickly started to encompass all of the works in the exhibition, because as we moved through it, we were absorbing different bits of information. So it was really lovely in terms of creating a different kind of connection to the work. How it goes.
Yeah, maybe that's an important point. I think it's for me as an artist, it's important to overcome the idea of authorship in a way. So at least for me, it's not very important. So for me, what's important is actually these moments. We are just actually together. So that's where art is vibrating, and that's where for me it should be. So it's not really about so the fact that suddenly all this is becoming one is really beautiful. So I love that.
Any other comments? I'd like to thank our 3 artists involved in this wonderful collaboration.
Thank you everybody for coming out tonight.